After testing the popular Sony A90J, we bought and tested the Sony A80J. It's a lower end model compared to the A90J, so how does it perform in comparison? It's still an OLED, so of course it delivers exceptional picture quality, but like its older brother, it still lacks some gaming features that we normally see on high-end TVs. Hi, I'm Brandon, a test developer at RTINGS.com, where we help you find the best products for your needs. First, we'll look at the design of the TV and then move on to the smart features. Then, we'll give a quick overview before diving into the details. And lastly, we'll finish by comparing it to other models on the market, like the A90J. Also, stick around, as we'll be answering some of your questions at the end as part of our AskRTINGS hashtag. Like with all of our reviews, we buy and test the products ourselves. In this case, the 55-inch A80J. But it's also available in 65 and 77 inches as well. We expect those other sizes to perform similarly. Let's start off with the design. The Sony A80J has a premium style that looks similar to the higher-end A90J from the front. It's a bit thicker than the A90J, but shouldn't stick out much if you wall-mount it. Overall, the TV should look nice in any setup. The stand is 2 metal feet that you can move to 3 different positions. There's a standard position where the TV sits flat to the table. You can also raise the feet by about 3 inches, so it should be good enough to place most soundbars in front and not block the screen. Lastly, you can bring the feet inwards about 7 inches on either side for a more narrow position. This is good if you don't have a big table. The back of the TV has a unique design with plastic squares etched with diagonal lines. Unfortunately, Sony doesn't offer any ties or anything for cable management, so your wires will just be dangling there. If you want to wall mount it, you can thanks to the VESA mounting holes. Overall, the A80J is very well made. The materials feel premium throughout, and they're very solid. The panel and the feet are metal, and the back part that houses the electronics is plastic. There's a bit of flex on the plastic on the back, but it's not too much of a problem. Also, the TV doesn't wobble at all, which is great. You shouldn't experience any issues with the TV's build quality. To know more about the inputs, stick around for the input section later in the video. Let's look at the smart features of this TV. Like all of Sony's TVs in 2021, the A80J comes with the new Google TV. It replaces Android TV from previous years. It functions about the same, but they cleaned up the interface a bit. The menus feel very smooth to navigate, but it may take some time getting used to the OS. Since it's Google TV, you get access to a ton of apps from the Google Play Store. Sadly, like most TVs, there are ads on both the homepage and App Store, and you can't disable them. The ads on the homepage are pretty prominent, and they appear under the guise of suggested content. The A80J comes with the same remote as past Sonys. It's pretty big and has the same look as traditional remotes with a full numpad. There are quick access buttons to YouTube, Netflix, Disney+, and Amazon Prime Video. You also get voice control through the Google Assistant. You can ask it to change settings, switch inputs, or search for specific content in apps. What's the weather like in Houston, Texas?
Right now in Houston, it's 80 degrees and mostly cloudy.
You can also still use the Android TV app on your phone to control the TV. Before we dive deep into our test results, let's talk about how this TV performs overall. If you want to only see our test results, then feel free to skip ahead, or just check out the full review linked below. First, the Sony A80J is outstanding for watching movies in dark rooms. It displays perfect blacks because of how it can individually turn off each pixel. There's no blooming around bright objects either. It's also excellent for watching movies in HDR, or high dynamic range, which is a video format that enhances details in both shadows and highlights. It's also great for watching TV shows and sports. It has wide viewing angles, which is great if you want to watch shows or the big game with a few people around, so the image remains accurate when viewing from the side. It has fantastic reflection handling, which is great for a bright room. But likewise, it doesn't get super bright, so glare can still be an issue. For gamers, it offers incredible overall performance, but some people may be disappointed by the lack of extra features. It has a 120Hz panel, but it currently doesn't have variable refresh rate support. This helps reduce screen tearing in games, but Sony has said this may come in a future firmware update. Fortunately, motion looks smooth thanks to the near instant response time, and the input lag is very low for a responsive gaming experience. Likewise, it's amazing for gaming in HDR. Lastly, the A80J is an impressive choice if you want to use it as a PC monitor. The image will still look accurate if you sit close because it has wide viewing angles. It has fantastic reflection handling, but you should still avoid using it in a really bright room because it doesn't get very bright. Also, it displays proper chroma 444, which is great for clearing up text. Although this is still an OLED display, so there's still a risk of burn-in, especially if you don't take the right precautions. With our quick overview out of the way, let's get into the details. Let's start off with the contrast ratio, which is probably the most important part of picture quality. Like any OLED, the A80J has a near infinite contrast ratio because it can turn each pixel on and off. Blacks look black when viewed in the dark. OLEDs can achieve this without local dimming since they don't have a backlight, so there's no blooming in dark scenes. Next, let's look at the SDR brightness. This is important if you tend to watch TV in a bright room because you want it to get bright enough to combat glare. Like most OLEDs, the A80J's brightness is just okay. It reaches about 300 nits in real content, similar to the LG C1 from this year. Combined with its fantastic reflection handling, it should be bright enough to fight glare in a room with a few lights, but we don't suggest placing it opposite of a window. Also, large areas of bright colors are a lot more dim due to the automatic brightness limiter. This is done on purpose to avoid damaging the internal electronics and the panel itself. This means that if you want to use it as a PC monitor or watch sports with bright areas, like in hockey, the screen doesn't get that bright. Speaking of the reflection handling, we notice the screen handles light differently than the A90J. There are more direct reflections, which means that it has a different type of screen finish. It doesn't really change anything in terms of performance because it's still fantastic and handles reflections well, but it's rare that a premium TV doesn't have as good a finish. Now, let's move on to the HDR brightness. This is important for watching HDR content because bright TVs can make highlights really pop and stand out in the way the creator intended. It gets much brighter in HDR than in SDR, going nearly as bright as 600 nits in real scenes. Small highlights can really stand out, but once again, it gets more dim when there are large areas of bright colors. Overall, the HDR brightness is okay and still delivers a good HDR experience thanks to the contrast ratio, but it's not as bright as LED TVs. In game mode, the HDR brightness is about the same. We measured a slightly dimmer screen with real content, but it's normal that brightness can vary between our testing runs, and it's not very noticeable. Now, let's look at the screen's uniformity. This represents how well it displays a single color across the screen, and it's especially important if you're going to use it as a PC monitor. Like many OLEDs, it has excellent gray uniformity. Only the edges are slightly darker, but it's really hard to see. With really dark scenes, OLEDs tend to have faint horizontal and vertical lines that are visible, but we didn't notice any on our unit. If you have this TV and notice them, let us know in the comments below. Keep in mind that uniformity can vary between units. As for black uniformity, it's perfect because of the self-emissive technology of OLEDs. Things like a star field or subtitles look amazing. If you're going to place a TV in a wide seating arrangement, it's important to have wide viewing angles so the image remains accurate when viewed from the side. Like any OLED, the A80J has wide viewing angles, so the image looks pretty much the same whether you're viewing it from directly in front or off at an angle. Let's move on to the color accuracy. Sony TVs are known to have an accurate picture before any sort of calibration, and this is no exception. Colors and the white balance are only slightly inaccurate, but it's not enough to tell just by looking at it. However, the color temperature is on the cold side, which gives the image a slight bluish tint. Speaking about colors, let's talk about the range of colors this TV can display for HDR content, which is known as the color gamut. Like the Sony A90J or even the LG C1, it has an excellent color gamut, so it's able to display a wide range of colors. As for its color volume, which is how well it can display these colors at different shades, it's okay. It displays dark colors well due to the high contrast, but because it doesn't get very bright, it struggles a bit displaying brighter shades. Another thing that Sony TVs are known for is their fantastic gradient handling. This defines how well the TV is able to transition between the shades of the same color. So if there is a scene with a sunset on it, does it transition between the shades and colors well, or is there visible banding? The A80J is no different from other Sony TVs and does a fantastic job with gradients. You shouldn't notice any banding with real content. Before moving on to motion handling, it's important to note that this is an OLED display, and there's the risk of permanent burn-in if displaying static content for long periods of time. This could be especially a problem if you use your OLED as a PC monitor because there are so many static elements in the interface. You can see in our video here for an investigation into this issue, but we don't expect this to be a problem for people who watch varied content. By the way, before we speak about motion handling and gaming features, if you enjoy our content, please make sure you subscribe to our channel for the latest videos, and check out our website for the full review and more. By subscribing, you're helping us reach a wider audience and in turn helping you find the best products for your needs. Also, visit the product deal page on our website, linked below. You'll find all available sizes from our affiliates presented, along with a convenient price tracker. Moving on to the motion handling, we'll have a look at the response time first. Response time is the time it takes for pixels to change from one color to the next. A slow response time will create a blurry trail behind fast-moving objects, known as ghosting. Luckily, OLEDs have near instant response times, so there shouldn't be any visible ghosting. Motion blur has many causes though, so if you want to improve it further, you can enable black frame insertion, or BFI. This is done by inserting black frames between each frame of real content to try to improve the appearance of motion. For the A80J, it works for both 60 and 120 FPS content. The BFI feature can be found in the settings under motion flow. Just set it to custom and change the clearness sliders. However, this feature isn't for everyone and it dims the screen and causes discomfort due to the flicker. If you're watching low frame rate content, stutter can be a real issue on OLEDs, but you can remedy this with the motion interpolation feature. Turning on motion interpolation creates what's known as the soap opera effect, and you can learn more about how it works here. On the A80J, it can interpolate low frame rate content up to 120 FPS. It works pretty well in slow scenes, but there are visible artifacts in busy scenes. Keep in mind that the motion interpolation feature isn't for everyone, but feel free to play around with the sliders to see if it's for you. Before we move on to the inputs, let's talk about gaming features like variable refresh rate support, or VRR. This helps reduce screen tearing while gaming. It has a 120Hz panel, but there's currently no VRR support. Sony has said it will come in a future firmware update, and until then, we'll continue waiting it out. The TV also lacks a fully fledged auto low latency mode, which switches the TV to game mode when it recognizes a console or PC is connected. Sony has their own implementation that works well with Sony consoles, but for everything else, you'll have to switch modes yourself. Speaking of gaming, having a TV with low input lag is really important. As for the A80J, the input lag is really low, as long as you're in game mode. It's not as low as the rival LG C1, but it's still good enough that most people won't feel any delay when gaming. In terms of what resolutions the TV supports, it's able to display both 1080p and 4K signals up to 120 Hz. However, it doesn't display 1440p properly. We were able to force a 1440p at 60 Hz signal, but it doesn't accept any at 120 Hz. This is a bit disappointing if you're going to use it for PC gaming, but it shouldn't be much of an issue for watching regular content. Also, the TV displays proper Chroma 444, which is a picture format that helps improve text clarity when using it as a PC monitor. So we checked compatibility with a PC, but what about the new consoles? Well, it properly supports 1080p and 4K signals up to 120 Hz on either console, but it can't do 1440p from the Xbox. Also, we experienced an issue where it can't display 4K at 120 Hz in Dolby Vision from the Xbox. Either you need to drop the frame rate down to 60 Hz or use HDR10 to achieve a 120 Hz signal. That said, we don't expect this to be an issue for most games. And as mentioned before, there's no VRR as of now, and auto low latency mode only works with the Sony consoles. Now, let's check out the inputs. They are located on the back and right side. In total, there are 4 HDMI inputs, and both HDMI 3 and 4 support HDMI 2.1, which allows you to achieve a 4K at 120 Hz signal. There are 3 USB inputs, and the one on the back is USB 3.0. Also, there's a digital and analog audio out, a TV tuner, an Ethernet port, and an IR input. Lastly, there's a composite in, but you need an adapter for it, as the TV doesn't come with one. The A80J supports eARC, which allows you to pass high-quality audio to a compatible receiver via HDMI. It supports both Dolby Digital and DTS formats. However, you need to use one of the HDMI 2.1 inputs for eARC to work, so you'll only be left with one other HDMI 2.1 input for your new console or gaming PC. Before we finish up, let's quickly talk about the sound quality. Overall, it's pretty good, especially for a TV. It sounds bass heavy, which is rare for a TV, but voices or higher pitched instruments sound a bit more flat. There's also distortion when listening at max volume, but this depends on the content. Like always, it's always best to get a soundbar or speaker setup for the best audio experience possible. So, in terms of picture quality, the Sony A80J and the Sony A90J are pretty similar, They each have an OLED panel with a near infinite contrast. The main differences are that the A90J has better reflection handling and gets brighter, but not by much. So the A90J will be better fit for a brighter room and will deliver a more impactful HDR experience. But if you don't plan on using it in a bright room, then there's not much difference between the two. So how does the A80J stack up against LG's offering, the C1? Since the Sony A80J and the LG C1 have similar panels, picture quality between them is again about the same. The Sony has much better color accuracy before calibration, but this can vary between units. The main difference is that the LG has more gaming features, like VRR support, a better auto low latency mode, and 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. These are all noteworthy features, but if you're not going to be gaming, there's not much that separates the two. Now, let's take a look at a couple of questions that you had for us. Ken Blum from Facebook wants to know if this TV has the same color banding issues as the A90J when displaying 4K 120Hz HDR. For those of you who are unaware, the Sony A90J seems to have banding and posterization issues when displaying a 4K 120Hz HDR signal. It can be hard to notice, but it's definitely visible in some instances. To see if it's on the A80J, I'll grab Alex, our TV tester, to help me set it up.
So we're enabled in 120 hertz.
Okay, cool.
Oh, you do see it a little bit right there.
In these clouds right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you can see
In
it.
the sky.
Yep, here, you can see it there.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, thanks to Alex's help, we were able to see banding in the skies and clouds while this game is sending a 4K 120Hz HDR signal. So it still has the same issues that its older brother, the A90J, also has. Next, JY from YouTube wants to know if the TV's picture settings save to the TV itself or to the Google account, and if signing out of the Google account resets the TV settings. Let's find out with a quick test. So to test this out, we change the hue in the color settings to something that's quite awful, just so we notice an immediate difference once we sign out of the TV to see if it saved the settings or not. As you can see here, hue is all the way up to 50. So to try this out, we're going to go to Settings, Account and Sign In, our account. We're going to remove the account. And as you can see here, the only option you get is to remove the account and reset the device. So let's see what happens when we do that. I can already tell the picture settings changed. So now that we're signed out, or I guess it's going to restart real quick. So we're finally back after resetting the TV. And since there's no option to sign out, you have to remove the account. You have to factory reset the TV settings in order to sign out. And as you can see from our picture settings, the color hue did not maintain, even though we have signed back into the original user account before we signed out. Overall, the A80J is an excellent TV. Like any OLED, it delivers fantastic picture quality because of how it delivers perfect black levels. It's an amazing choice if you want to use it for most content, but there are better LED options if you tend to watch TV in a well-lit room and need to combat glare. Also, it lacks some key gaming features, so it might not be the best pick if you're a big gamer. So that's it. What do you think of the A80J? Will you be choosing it over the A90J? Let us know below. Also, we're a growing company and are expanding in other product categories. As a result, we are currently hiring in our offices in Montreal for various positions. So, if you want to help people find the best products for their needs, have a look at the careers page on our website. You can check out all of the measurements on our website. If you like this video, please subscribe to our channel. You can also become an insider on the website for early access to our latest results. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.